If you're new to this channel, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. It is time for me to upgrade my dev environment. I've been an avid supporter of Xampp for years. It's perfect for learning on an isolated environment where you get a server, database access, and a whole host of things necessary for web development. For someone like me who doesn't use Apple products, and even though Linux is great, it's just not enough to support all that I do with my machine. Xampp has worked out perfectly well for a long time. Whatever it can't do, I could spin up a virtual machine and use Laravel Homestead in place of it. If you're interested in seeing how to get set up with Xampp or with Homestead, or maybe both, let me know and I'll make those videos too. Just let me know down in the comments. Now, I want you to take a look at what these do to my system. Now that I'm doing these tutorials on YouTube, I have software running for recording. When I'm done recording, I have software running for editing. It's a lot to ask from an old laptop. It's a lot to ask from any device that isn't enterprise grade. In comes Docker. I've finally got it set up and configured to be able to whip up a Laravel project on a Windows machine on top of Linux, and barely any resources get used. So I thought that other Laravel developers might find this useful. If you're in the same situation as I am, or if you want to learn something new, this video is for you. Now, to get the environment that I really truly wanted, I wanted to do everything on a different hard drive than what's on the operating system, which meant that I had to do some tweaking and some cut and pasting and just sort of wrecking my entire system several times before I finally got it right. Basically, how to set up the WSL and getting Docker on the Windows machine, I followed this guy right here. His name is Learn Web Code. From the video, he was doing it for the first time as well and kind of trying to figure it out. So I thought that was kind of a unique way of going about it, and you were able to follow along with him. So that's pretty much how I set it up on the system itself. Now, to customize it and to get Docker off of that hard drive, but to move it to the separate D drive or separate E drive, I followed this gentleman right here. His name is Marauders Gears and Gadgets, and I'm going to link both of their videos down in the description so that you guys can go take a look if you want to see how to set this up in that way. In case you were going to attempt this using Marauders, he did a perfectly good explanation of it and it worked pretty well. I ran into some issues along the way, but I think it was more of my misunderstanding with how the system actually works together, because I'm still very much in the virtual machine realm of understanding how that works. If you were having a problem following along, there is in Stack Exchange, there is basically, it's doing it the same way that he's doing it. It just does things slightly differently. So if you're having a hard time setting it up, maybe try it this way, because a combination of the two is how I ended up getting it. And I ended up getting Ubuntu 18.04. I will probably be moving it to 20.04 at some point, but I'm going to keep it at 18.04 for now. So with that being said, let's take a look at Docker. Basically, what you would be doing is installing the Docker desktop, which is right here. And you would just install it for whatever system. I'm focusing on Windows, so that's what I downloaded. Now let's take a look at the Laravel documentation. If you go to the documentation and take a look at the installation setup, it shows you how to do it on different systems. So you have Mac OS, you have Windows, you have Linux, and then you have Sail incorporating it with Windows. You also have installation via Composer, and that's pretty much how I've been doing it with Xampp anyway. So that's basically how you would be setting it up, especially if you're doing it as a new project. When you're installing it this way using Sail, we'll go down to choosing your Sail instances. This curl command is how you would install it, and this will give you MySQL. You can choose any of these to attach to it, but what I wanted to do was, since my environment tends to also include Jetstream and Inertia and all of those things, this installation isn't going to work with getting all that just put in right together without you installing new packages. So what I did instead was I decided to go straight to the Laravel Sail documentation, and this is in the packages section of the documentation. And since I already have Laravel installer installed globally, as well as Composer and all that stuff, then I figured I would just go ahead, create the application, and then boot up through Docker, because that's the whole point, isn't it? To be able to put it anywhere you want to put it and be able to whip up a Docker container and have your project. So now at this point, you should have your Docker installed and set up on whatever drive you're going to be using. You should have your WSL set up already, following those other resources that I gave you. And then we are ready to now start from scratch and creating a project. So what I have here is the terminal. And I'm just using git bash for this. It's in the E drive, and I have a folder for codes, which if you look, I have some test projects in there that I was playing around with just to make sure that all of this stuff worked. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new project. And again, as I said, I have Laravel installer installed globally. So I can do Laravel new, and this one we'll call it Laravel test. No. We'll call it blog test. Gonna add the jet flag on it. We'll do inertia. Will your application use Teams? No. And then we are just gonna go ahead and let it run until it's finished. Fantastic. So now we have our project pretty much built. We'll check and make sure that it's in there. Don't worry about this stuff you see up here. I have notifications disabled on my computer, so that's what that's about. Let's go clear this out. And one thing that I want to show you. In the documentation, Laravel Sail is already included with every installation. I don't know how 100% true that is based on how you're installing, but if it says it, I'm inclined to believe it, like 90%. Okay, which means that we are installing it into an existing application. We do not need to run this Laravel Sail command. Let's say it's an old project and now you want to add Sail to it. That's when you would run this command. So if we go to that folder and we take a look at our composer JSON, you see that Sail is already installed. You don't have to worry about it. It's already in there. But what we do need to do is to get the Docker compose file to whip up the Docker container. We do need to get that in here. So the command that we do need to run is this php artisan sail install, because that will give us the YAML file that we'll need for it. So now we can go ahead, paste that in. Which services would you like to install? For this demo, I'm just going to do MySQL just so you can see it, and Mailhog so you can see that as well. That looks like it went through. Now what I want to do is I want to bring up the WSL. We'll do WSL, and now that has brought us to that connection that we have. If you're on Windows and you have this set up the way that we do, this is how you know that you are in your Linux distribution. Okay, so now we can do code dot and open up our VS Code. Okay, so let's go ahead, open up the terminal. And as you can see here, we're mounted because this is the connection. This is the mounted connection in our Ubuntu server. And as you can see, it has Nick set designated coder. So that's the username that it gave it. What I want to do is I want to open up a new terminal. Since I'm using ZSH, we are in WSL Ubuntu. Okay, we're in the server for the Ubuntu, but I'm using ZSH because I installed it. If you don't have that as your terminal to open up, then it would just show up as WSL Ubuntu. So that's just a quick side note. We're in our system. One thing that I want to do is I don't want to run the sail command just yet. If we take a look at the sail documentation again, this is the command that we want to run. However, there is an alias that you can put in, and I haven't quite figured out how to make it global just yet, but you can do it for every time that you open up the project. So I'm going to copy this one. This is the alias for sail. I'm going to go back to the VS Code, paste that in, and now sail should work. Because we're in here, you know that our Docker container is up and running, because if not, it would say Docker is not running on here, because the sail commands are the same as the Docker commands. It's just Docker in place of sail. Sorry, it's just sail in place of Docker. The command that I want to run is sail up, and we are going to let that run. And if it's your first time building all this out, this is going to take a really long time. I think it took maybe about 5-10 minutes before everything had propagated and everything had built up. Mine went much quicker, but yours is going to take a long time. Once you see it just stop propagating and you're pretty much at this stuff down here, then you know that it's finished running. I want to open up Docker Desktop so I can show you what it looks like in there. So I have 4 projects. These are the test projects that I had. This is the one that we just built. If you click this little caret right here, you see that we have the MySQL that's running on 3306. That's the port. We have our project, which is running on port 80. And then Mailhog, which we also install, is running on port 1025. So that's where we're going to be grabbing that stuff. You go to images, this is all the images that have come with either this project that we installed or with the previous ones that I had, but these are what's included in the Laravel installation. Okay, so those are the images. Here are the volumes. You see we have MySQL. These are the different databases for the different projects that I set up earlier. The Mealy search, I don't know how to pronounce that. Another MySQL, and then we also have Redis. Okay, great. So we've seen our project. Now let's head to the browser and make sure that it's running. So I already have it at localhost. This is at 8,000. I'm going to just do localhost. Okay, so now we have a Laravel error. If you haven't seen it yet, this is for Laravel 8, the new server error type things that we get. This is what it looks like now. So all this is saying is that the base table or view is not found, and that's because we didn't actually run any migrations. So let's head back to the text editor. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop this, so Control C, and what that's going to do is it's going to bring the container down. What we really want to do is we want to open up the terminal to be free to use for other things. So if we want to install more packages, if we want to do whatever we want to do within the project, we want to make sure that we have our terminal free. Clear that. What we can do is now, instead of just sail up, we can do sail up D, and that will have it run in detached mode so that we can still have access to our terminal, still run our commands, and the container is still up and active. So now I said that we have our migrations that we still need to run. If we go to .env, you see that from our setup, we have a DB connection from MySQL, the host is MySQL, the port is 3306, and the database name is blog test, username is sail, password is password. It's getting all of this. Do you want to install? Not right now. Thank you. This is the Docker Compose file. This is the instructions that Laravel Sail is giving to Docker in order to be able to whip up our container. If you see here, it has a main Docker file. It's got our image. We've got our hosts. These are the ports. This is the port that the app itself is running on. Some debug information. This is the volume that it's running on so that we can see it at localhost. The network is Sail. It depends on MySQL. It's pretty much self-explanatory. There are a lot of videos on Laravel Sail where you can take more of a deep dive into these. I'm just giving you the broad strokes. So MySQL, this is our environment. This DB password is coming from our .env file. The database, username, password, all of that stuff is coming from that file. The other thing we have is we've installed Mailhog, and that's going to be running on 1025. And I will show you that in a bit, but I do want to get through the database first. Now that that's running, we need something to be able to deal with our database. So what I'm going to do is from here, because we have it set up in our Docker Compose, and because we have it set up in our .env, all we need to do here is run sail artisan instead of PHP artisan migrate. And now that has run all of our migrations. We can't see it yet because we don't have a place to really display it just yet, but I will show you that in a moment. If we head back to the browser, we can now refresh this. And we have our project, a full-blown Laravel project. You can see the version is 9.2. We have authentication because we ran Jetstream, and that brought in Xampp for us. We can register a new user. It is all up and running. We are now on the dashboard page. We are logged in. We can access any of these other things in here. But I know you're wondering, where is our database? In order to be able to show you the database, I have found a free database sort of structure. So kind of like phpMyAdmin, but it's free. It's not connected to anything else. I think Table Plus would be sort of a similar type deal with it, but it has worked out pretty well for me and I do like using it, especially for testing. Okay, and this is what it looks like. For my purposes, I'm going to show you how I'm doing it with this. It will be dependent completely on whatever you decide to use for your database, but this is what I'm choosing to use. So new connection, okay, we just click the drop down and we have a MySQL project, which will be, the connection type will be MySQL, host, localhost, port, correct. The username is, let's take a quick look because I've forgotten already. The username is sail, password is password, and then the database is blog test. Okay, so user sail, password is password, blog test, that's the name of the database. And then we need to put that here as well. And I'm going to make the tab green because that's my color. So connection saved, go ahead and connect. And now you see we have our migration. Double click this. This is the new user that we just created, and it has all of the information that we need. Okay, same thing with the other tables. And if you choose to add another migration, it will all load up right through here because everything is working in its own environment within the Docker container. Once we shut down the Docker container, this database won't have access to it anymore. The next thing that I wanted to show you, and one quick thing before I leave this Docker compose file, unless you have some extenuating circumstances or if you want to get ready to put it in production, I would look up the information that you would need to have in this composer.yaml file just to make sure that you have all of your settings set correctly. This for me is just for testing for right now. I don't feel comfortable trying to put this into production just yet, even though I have used Linux before. I've never used Docker before. So I would highly suggest you looking up what settings you would need to have in here. And there are tons of videos on deploying Laravel Docker projects specifically. Okay, I will eventually get into it once I feel more comfortable. I will get into being able to show you how I did it. But for now, just don't touch these unless you absolutely have to. The very last thing that I wanted to show you today was this Mailhog. With the installations with Laravel 8, they started using this Mailhog in the default installation, which is basically just the Docker version of Mailtrap. It's made from the same people as far as I'm aware. It's just to get you up and running in a dev environment, and it's much more lightweight. You don't have to create a whole new account or anything for it. It just works right out of the box. Now, this port is 1025, but in the Docker compose file, let's look at the forward Mailhog dashboard port. That's hard to say. Okay, the dashboard port. We want to go to 8025 as our port. Okay, so now in the browser, we can just do 8025. No, leave me alone. And as you can see, I don't have any emails or anything like that to show you, but as you can see, we have access to it. We don't have to do anything. It's already connected. It's already set up in the container with all of the other things that we have with our project. I think that is very, very cool. I'm kind of excited about using some of these functionalities, but I did want to show you guys this because I thought that you might be able to find it useful if you guys are looking to maybe change things up or maybe grow a little bit more, because that's what I'm doing by trying out this whole Docker environment. Now, the very, very, very last thing that I want to show you is how to bring down our Docker container. If we take a look, it is still running and we haven't done anything, but it's hard to tell because we don't have anything speeding past our eyes letting us know that either something's wrong or something's up. Let's go and bring this blog test down. Back into our text editor, back into our terminal. I'm just going to clear this out so you can see it better. And now, since we have sail running, we're going to do sail, stop. Okay, and one by one, it's going to bring down all of the parts of the container, all the volumes down. Not the volumes, it's going to keep the volumes running, but the container itself, it's going to bring that down so that we don't have to worry about it anymore. We go ahead and look at the Docker now. You see that that blog test is now it's exited, just like all the rest of them. And the images are still running. The volumes are still running until we shut down Docker itself altogether. This will continue to run. Now, even if you want to bring these down or you want to bring it down altogether, there are different commands for that. One other thing, this is not dependent on if you're doing it on a different hard drive or not, but there's another article that I found. It's basically how to remove Docker containers, images, volumes, because whatever drive you have, you will see a decrease in the gigabytes whenever you start putting in new projects. So what I'm just going to do for mine is I'm just going to, once I'm done with them, I'm going to bring down the container, store just the project themselves instead of having the container be active on there. This is a valuable article that I found. I don't know who wrote it. I will link it in the description along with the other links that I'm giving you, but it's basically how to remove Docker containers, images, volumes, and networks. This will go through kind of what are the different commands within Docker to do that. I have used this numerous times in the past couple weeks while working on this because it was filling up the hard drive so much that it was becoming a little bit of a worry for me. And that's one of the bigger reasons why I wanted to move it to the different hard drive. This will just remove the unused containers, all of that stuff within the system. It'll remove the volumes, the images, whatever. It'll bring all that stuff down for you, and it shows you which ones to use, and be very careful which ones to use. If you have something else running in the background, you don't maybe want to use, Docker container prune all. You'll want to use just a specific one. I don't know who actually wrote this article, but whoever it is, she did a great job. I'm just kidding. I really don't know who it is. But yeah, I will link this down below so that you can have access to that. If you're enjoying the content, please go ahead and click that like button, as it really does help out the channel. I hope you learned something like I did. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.